Hello everyone, my name is Yuta Jazz, and today we are going to talk about reincarnation. We're continuing the Occult Saga podcast thingamaboggle, and reincarnation has been a really big part of the current scape of conversation. I mean, it's always been a really big conversation within spirituality, but it is becoming more of a thing now as well. There's a lot more questions, I feel like. There's so many different layers and depths to it, that I even now recently, like thinking about it, realized I have some questions of my own. So I think every episode in this podcast is going to expand into its own little, I don't know, sequences or parts or whatever. Maybe not every single topic, but a lot of them. And this might be one of them as well. Reincarnation is a thing. It's not that it isn't. It is a thing. Everyone reincarnates. Everyone has multiple lives, and it is a little different on where you go afterwards, depending on who or what your soul is used to, like who you are, what your soul is used to, where it comes from. Different collectives have different origins, and depending on the origin you have been born in as a soul, as energy of existence, right, as a pocket of consciousness, that is possibly going to be your place of home. That's at least always going to feel like home, and it's gonna be the place where you learn the most, right? Let's say, for example, you have been born on Earth, you're a human soul, you have always been a human soul, you will reincarnate through the experience of Earth until you ascend to a certain level where then you can expand beyond Earth in many different ways. You can become a ascended master. You can move on to other dimensions and other realities and other worlds or other planets that have a different frequency compared to Earth. And in general, you can start advancing through the higher levels of consciousness more freely. You're not stuck or tied down here within what is called the reincarnation loop. So the reincarnation loop is, I mean, it's a few things, but we're going to talk about it to the point of reincarnation and in the big scape of things. So the reincarnation loop is basically the loop where you just keep reincarnating quite like basically regularly in the same place through different lives, and you keep going and you keep going until there is that ascension breakthrough, until you elevate, until you completely evolve as a soul, and you don't have the same, I guess, lack of awareness or consciousness when it comes to very deep soul felt emotions and concepts of humans and how to relate, and emotions and thoughts, and even the bigger scientific stuff, right? Like anything that is contributing to existence and consciousness is basically like a principle that has to be felt all the way through, and that's kind of the learning process of it. You have to go through that reincarnation cycle until you mature and evolve as a soul, basically, as you progress from being a little baby as a toddler, right? You aren't going to know or understand everything about all of the different relationships, all of the different mistakes that can be made, global events, emotions, personal desires, personal feelings, personal identity on a soul level, right? You're not going to get that in just one lifetime. You're going to need multiple reincarnations to have multiple different aspects of you expressed within those incarnations to then come back to your soul and keep adding that awareness and keep like plastering onto it until you are more formed. You're basically like matured in a way, and you have the capacity, the power, the awareness, the starting consciousness, right, to move on to other planes, to other places. Some people evolve faster than others. Depends on who you are that it's going to be slower or whatever. And not only humans get stuck in the reincarnation process, star seeds, light workers can get stuck in the reincarnation process. Like any being or entity that incarnates here and kind of goes off on a, let's say, very difficult life experience, maybe multiple life experiences, right? Where it keeps them like shackled or chained to the planet. Maybe they haven't come to terms and accepting some aspects of whatever difficult experiences they've had has really struck them, and so they need to go through multiple experiences again to undo that attachment to their life, to that particular incarnation, to the planet, to that particular person on the planet, to that I don't know, experience of any sort, really. And beings that come here can get stuck if they're just coming here for a joyride. Beings that have come here to do actual work and have either ascended or are really beyond, I guess, the norm of whatever is the conscious capacity here, they don't get stuck here. They come in, they leave when they're done, and they don't have to come back. Most of the time, they don't even come back. But there's a lot of people that do desire to come back. A lot of star seeds, a lot of light workers, a lot of ascended human like masters, ascended masters that have been human, right? Mostly or through just where they were born, they still come back here, although they don't need to or have to, because they want to help the planet here. They want to improve it. They want to leave it better so everyone else has an easier time of going through their experiences and their lessons and can ascend quicker within that. Or for more of the like-minded souls to have company, guidance, support, relationships, whatever it might be, right? So the reincarnation process kind of gets complicated, but also in a way is simple because it is what it is just that, right? It's a continuous cycle of evolution. There's different backgrounds, so different souls from where they came, what lessons they're learning, what they're going through, and most of the time it's kind of like the process would be still of ascension not just personally for the soul, but also for the planet. Ascension is part of all of creation, and every single different place contributes towards it. No dimension, no world, no place, no beings are really better or worse than anyone else. I feel like there might be a bit of a misconception there. That'll be covered in the episode of I just talked about it today and I can't freaking remember it. Whatever, something to do with souls, souls and their inherent purpose. Um, but yeah, I guess there are reincarnation traps as well. That's a huge thing. It depends on how you look at that term though, because it depends on which one of them you are talking about. If you're talking about the reincarnation loop that is basically mandatory for beings to evolve through or to so they can ascend out of this planet and they were born on this planet, right? That's not necessarily a trap. That isn't meant to be a trap. That is a natural part of evolution, growth, and ascension. Um, People that during their time here attached to certain energies, maybe give their soul away, maybe get into certain astral prisons and other things like that. They're stuck in the reincarnation cycle when that happens, but that doesn't mean that they're stuck forever, or that they can't get out of it or what have you. There's different experiences there, and there's different ways of how energy manifests itself and expresses itself during life and afterlife, but it's not it's not a trap in the sense that you will never get out of it. You might be used as a battery for some beings, or you might have a contract and a purpose that you didn't think of seriously enough, you didn't consider it, and now you have to reincarnate multiple times because you are in cahoots with whatever this being, background entity, or otherwise, and insert here, right, is. And it's kind of like paying back whatever loan you agreed to get into. And the only way out is going through whatever you agreed to. But most of the time, reincarnation is not a problem. It's not a bad thing. It's not a trap. It's legitimately just souls going into an experience and then coming out of it and bringing down themselves, whoever, whatever they are, whatever their soul essence is, predetermining some experiences or signing up for some stuff, picking out whatever is more relevant to them or what they want to try and experience, what they want to try and work towards, right? Some people don't have a lot of choices. Some people more or less kind of are going through certain plans and ideas up until they are okay or right enough to choose themselves, because that can be a very overwhelming process that makes like that leaves less to any excuses, right? It leaves less opportunity to do that. It kind of keeps you in a place where you have to take accountability and responsibility for multiple choices before and after living, and during living as well. And whatever happens there as you take it back, it still brings something to you and fulfills you, but it's less of like a automatic development idea or plan, and it's more of a case of you consciously setting out for certain experiences, certain processes, certain risks, certain achievements and goals and possibilities. So, yeah, just because someone, let's say, says that they're a star seed, a very old soul, or other stuff like that, doesn't necessarily mean um, anything except for they've been around more worlds, they're a bit older, and that means they might know more and are more advanced and more experienced, but everyone's learning, so they are still prone to their own mistakes. They're still prone to being stuck in old patterns or in old wounds and traumas that they might need to go through multiple lifetimes to work through, right? A very fresh new soul doesn't have that. It's kind of like how even in real waking life, right? We have people that are so youthful and full of life, and throughout their earlier age, they are more flexible in many ways of life. They're more flexible in the mind and the emotions, in their body, in the options of where they can go within life, right? And if they create mistakes, they can come back from it. In certain ways easier compared to people that might, have the same struggles in the future. It's harder because they're not as flexible to come back from so certain health issues, certain life changes, other things like that, right? Like more things are on the line, or more things are at risk to be lost and other things, right? So that's kind of the same perspective of how old and new souls work as well. Well, new souls are so wide open, so flexible. The possibilities are endless with them. They are young and also naive and learning many different things, but they're so much more open to their learning process, and they might look forward to it more than old souls who can experience such things as being fed up, as having certain feelings or experiences that follow them and they can't shake it off, and they have to face it and deal with it. They might not be able to just go off wherever they think they want to or do whatever they desire because of certain obligations when either incarnating or certain karmic patterns coming to a crescendo where certain options are not as available as they used to be, and it's not exactly what it seems some of the times when you hear those terms of like reincarnation, um, old souls, new souls, right? I feel like people believe that reincarnation is only a thing for this planet, who aren't really into that idea of reincarnation or spirituality. If you were to bring it up, most people would say like, "Oh, okay, yeah, so you just there's heaven, and there's hell, there's earth, and then there's you just going in between of all those places almost like, and then there's I don't know, some weird underworld where ghosts are." And you can get trapped there too, and then that's more or less the whole idea of it. Which I guess like it makes sense, right? But at the same time, there's so much more in reality and consciousness in the universe. There's alien worlds, there's different galaxies, there's different dimensions and realities, which don't have really like worlds in the same image you'd imagine universes and how they operate, right? It's not really as physical or astronomical. It's not connected the same way. And all of those different places have rules. Every single place has different rules. Every single place has different possibilities within it, different physics, different laws, and different beings as well. Every single place has a background of not just history, but I guess the origin of an energy or a vibe of where the dimension comes from. So the beings are also going to have that vibe or frequency or energy. So, for example, heaven and angels, right? Um, if you're interested in different alien species and cultures, you'll see that like the Pleiadians, Syrians, Orions, whatever, all of them are very different. But also those places have different planets, different histories on those planets, and slightly different beings as well, or different generations of the same energy of Pleiadian beings, right? Just completely like colorful in its own term, but also mostly just specifically unique to whatever, Palladians feel like, or whatever you attribute them to have or go through or be with in terms of characteristics and what they provide or do. Reptilians, dragons, fairies, all of those worlds have a very different expression down here, right? We perceive them completely different. They are completely different as well as spirit, in energy, in how they come across to all of us, and how they also express themselves and experience themselves as well. Like it's kind of like you couldn't put a fish on land and expect them to be okay that way. Like they're still gonna be functioning in the ways of where they're from to some extent, even through so much evolution. They're after so much evolution has happened, they've transitioned from one dimension or one galaxy and world to another one, right? um, they're still gonna have this like energy or place of home, and then everything else after that that's gonna be a new home for them, that's gonna imprint a new fascination or being that's gonna stay with them as part of like maybe a quirk or a personality or an interest or a certain approach to things, a certain perspective, maybe a certain mastery of a skill or a talent or other stuff like that, right? As well as like talents and different experiences and things. They translate differently through dimensions, through worlds and time, but as basically in the form of like practicality, it's going to be different every single time, right? But in terms of energy, it's the same thing that just continues on in different incarnations, worlds, and like gets evolved as a talent, as a gift, as perception, as awareness of any sort and type. So yeah, it can go on as far as you can really expand your eyesight and as far as you want to see it. It's not really important to everyone, but to some people it is relevant because it might if you get into past life regression, right, and you're like a star seeder or a light worker, you might see some lifetimes that will really explain certain internal feelings to you of why you feel the way you feel about certain topics, even objects, maybe people, philosophies, ideas. Like you will just see like what stuck to you and what is most important from that lifetime that's gotten carried over to you currently presently, and how it's like it's an unconditional part of you. It's a part of you that has evolved together, right, with you. It's a part of you that has went through all of these things and has that memory, has that experience. And although some of it can go away, some things stay, and you can't really do anything about them except to learn how to live through them, with them, move on from them, or to integrate and accept them as part of your growth, your life, right? And that's not really for everyone. Some aren't gonna be going through past life regressions because it's not necessarily important if you're gonna be losing your stuff about like death, abuse, other things. Past life regression isn't just seeing cool things. Most of the time, when you go through past life regression, you do see dark things like how you passed and why it was traumatic, what you experienced and why did it stick with you, the people that you've known here and on Earth, right? That you knew them back there, and this is why this scenario is playing out with you two or between the group or however many people it might be. Maybe it's just a case of your experience from a past life feeding into the current present time, right? And you're basically just mulling over it, and it's now spreading. It's like part of your aura, it's part of your experience, and you can't escape it. It's because it's a part of you and it's following you to some extent, but really it's more like uh, some aspect of you that needs attention, needs care, needs love, needs compassion, but also needs a place where it is accepted so it can transform, it can transmute, it can shift over. And it's not easy. It's not for everyone. Young human souls right now here, they're not really gonna see too many lives of theirs, because there's only so many you can see as you do past life regressions as a star seed or light worker or alien or whatever. Um, you are limited to certain parts of information that's more relevant to you, that is more healthy to you. And while some beings aren't as limited to that or for that, right? It's a case of like when you have a very young human soul, and this can be anywhere. Like if it's not a young human soul, imagine a different world where some soul just got born there as well, and it's fresh and it's going through learning and evolving and evolution until the soul itself is in a place where it can just move freely and have the conscious experience of awareness, making decisions and choices. There's no real point in giving the young soul as it's like in toddler, kid, teenager years for it to go through past life regression because maybe they had just a few lives. None of them really stuck that much, or if they did stick, it's like the kid needs to keep going and learning rather than being stuck at one stage of learning, right? Um, there's only so much you can do to try and perfect anything, and the more you get stuck at somewhere trying to perfect it to make it right, the more you're missing everything else about learning, where mistakes are important, where moving on is important, where new introductions of new concepts is way more important because that's the building blocks of foundation. If you spread it out across with all of these different ideas and important notions, right, the being is going to be better tutored to handle more interesting, more intricate and difficult concepts about what it is to be alive, what it is to be conscious, what it is to be doing these actions, what it is to be making these decisions, what it is to be following spirit, what it is to be following beings of other sort that, whatever. And really integrating that through that experience properly instead of just getting stuck to one point. If you're a musician, the good example of it is, when you mess up, you keep playing. You just keep playing, you play it off, and you keep continuing to perform. And you do that regardless of how bad you mess it up. You just save it every time. Sometimes people will notice, most of the time, it's gonna be a save, legit a save. Only musicians are gonna notice, like, you did mess up there. And otherwise, you would actually stop the performance, maybe get in your head. If you'd start over, then you couldn't. And if you started anew from the place that is just before you made a mistake, you would just get hung up on the same mistake forever, right? So, and as you grow, you have more capacity as a soul to make those mistakes, keep being open to experiences, expanding on them, and being open to more mistakes, but you also have had by that time more solutions, more achievements, more goals, more experiences to put together a proper view of, like, why have these mistakes happened? How did they work? They did why how did they not work? And so on and so forth. Every place is considered to be a place of learning, growing, but also every place is just a temporary space for us to experience ourselves from this world, from other worlds, from wherever to wherever. Um, every world has its own history. Some of them are still around, some of them ascended. Same is going to happen with Earth as well. This as a school is not going to be open forever. If some beings are never going to incarnate here, they're never going to experience it. They're never going to have it. And someone that, like a soul that's not born yet, right, after Earth is gone, will only hear about it and see it maybe in pictures from other beings, but it's just gonna be this place where currently right now it is what it is, and it'll transform and move on to something else. The principle of it will evolve into new worlds, new concepts, new beings being born, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I guess the reincarnation process is more than complicated. Once you really realize it yourself and figure it out and go through past life regression, it is more easy to conceptualize and get into and understand than it is beforehand. But it's always really hard to describe and explain because of the complicated concepts that it involves, really, the multidimensionality of it, of, like, there's multiple worlds, there's multiple backgrounds. Each and every world is different ages, each and every being is different ages. People are different ages down here, but they are also different beings from different backgrounds. And the universe has been going on like this for a long, long while, where there's a world that pops up, it goes through stuff, and then it either goes boom or some other stuff happens with it. There's many different possibilities and stories. Um, and you have beings move on to the other galaxies, other incarnations, other worlds. Maybe they do that even, mixing it up a little bit, like, hey, I'll incarnate in this. My headset. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'll incarnate here in this world, do this stuff, and then I'll excarnate and go into a completely different star system or a completely different dimension. I don't know how many dimensions there are. To me, it seems like an infinite amount, just as many, worlds and stars and other things that are out there. And there's no set important definition to it, I guess. Besides the point of like, yeah, many different worlds, many different beings. Some are born here, some are born elsewhere, some are older, some are younger. We carry on some stuff from different dimensions and places into other incarnations and worlds. It's all interconnected in some way. Only certain things get really carried on over in terms of karma and highlighted for also different reasons. Maybe it's the right time, maybe it's destiny, maybe it was a choice, maybe some other things, right? And it's all the purpose of all of it is just experiencing it ourselves. Like the huge thing is like, yes, all of this is a school and all of this has lessons and all of it is for the purpose of evolution and growth. Um, but the real important detail to take away from reincarnation is really the debate that we already have on Earth, which is whether it's real or not, and if it was real per se, right? I'll be devil's advocate because I'm just one of those people. Why is it important and what would it change on the planet? What would it change within people and how they act and treat each other? How would they treat existence if they knew it was infinite and there's many other worlds and there's many other places, right? And all of them have a point of evolution from a certain type of concept of energy, of souls being born, and how that evolves and transforms them, beings around them, the cosmos, the creation of the worlds, of everything else, of the dimensions. How does that trickle through eternity? And legitimately, like, what does it develop and grow into? How do we find that out? How do we learn? How do we keep going forward instead of being stuck? How do we accept the point that, you know, nothing is taken for granted. And it's not necessarily the point of like judgment or other things. It's more in the point of like natural cause and effect. If you stretch out a person through multiple lifetimes and you know that it's the same person, it's the same being going through all of these things, right? And they are growing and evolving, but in every single incarnation, they don't believe it, they don't care about it, they don't want to deal with it, and they don't want to look into it, and they don't want to accept the deeper meaning of it because it might be shocking, it might be overwhelming, it might have work with it, right? They are going to not just experience life in a way that's very tunnel visioned, very simplistic, to the point, out of the point, no freaking meaning, but also they they will keep making those mistakes. They will need to keep coming back to. And it's not a case of everyone experiences just like trauma for the point of karma. Some people experience it for the point of awareness and understanding, so they can heal it within others, so they can heal it within themselves as well, so they can heal in general, I guess, their approach to life instead of being nonchalant, mocking, and destructive about it, right? But there is a unavoidable, real, honest truth of like the universe automatically, naturally is holding up tallies. Yes, there's random occurrences. Yes, there's things that happen outside of our comprehension, outside of our control, outside of other beings' control, even as well, like guides and stuff like that. Stuff goes out of their control. And it still all has a purpose to coming back to people finding more awareness and purpose in living in alignment. And living in alignment is legitimately like being part of nature in a way that makes nature grow and expand, and you grow and expand as part of that natural course of the cosmos, of life, of breath, right? And I think we've all seen examples of that, and so because of survival, like some of them get swept under the rug, but there's always an evident example of where intention and ambition should go if we want to see a better world. and that doesn't go away anywhere just because we're gonna only live 60, 80, 100 years, whatever, right? That maybe we're gonna need to come back to this planet and deal with whatever has happened in between of us dying now and then being reborn in just 20 years, 30 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, right? Um, Sometimes we aren't in life for a while because we need to sit in the darkness of realization, contemplation, and revelation post-death, right? But then you still are gonna come back here. You're still gonna experience this place. You're still gonna go through it. You're still gonna do whatever you gotta do with it. It's not gonna escape you. What you've done doesn't escape you either. It leaves a trace either on you and your soul, or on other souls and people, or on this planet and on other worlds and in all of these different places. It's not that it is something to threat over, guilt trip over, and whatever, but it is a reason to take serious consideration into what the fuck is the point of anything, because it's easy to just let go and not care. And it's healthy and important to some extent, right? If we want to freaking cope with being down here. But at the same time, it is a case of like, to what point is that coping complete and utter ignorance that is running rampant and destroying people, right? Like, just the concept of, let's say, reincarnation being real to a family can evolve the whole family. It can change everything about how they treat each other and act to each other because maybe they'll come back and have to go through all of it again every single time, right? And if they don't face their issues, if they don't start communicating or talking or really going out of their way to say, sorry, I did wrong. How can I make it up to you? Or, hey, this is my boundary. You cannot cross it because you are unhealthy, and I am okay to do that, right? If these things, entanglements, attachments don't ever get faced, it'll just repeat, and then the ignorance of the reincarnation cycle not being a real thing is just going to be a repetition of those problems, issues, and hardships, and it's just going to continue and go on and on and on. Oh, I guess you could also say that there's the other side of it where just because we're infinite and everything is everything all the time, energy's everywhere, we don't need to look into anything seriously because none of it really matters, right? As it's happening, there's always going to be more to come. Apparently, this isn't YOLO. So I'll just do whatever I want to. Two extremes, right? Neither of them really serve the purpose. But I think if we can come to terms and integrate the truth that maybe this is not our only life. Maybe there is a bank we keep coming back to that is our own soul bank, that is all of our experiences, emotions, feelings, hangups, thoughts, right? That maybe we can just take parts of our lives and be attached to them forever, even after death. And it's not going to be in the case and sense of you being like a ghost, not knowing where the hell you are and what's happening and needing someone to help you pass on, right? But more in the case of like you go back to your soul, oversoul, whatever. You go back to your ancestors with your guides and everything. You do the overview and you actually have that as an accumulation. It has an impact. It has meaning. It has purpose. Every little big or insignificantly significant thing that we do carries something that stays forever. Kind of like on the internet, you know how there was this thing of everyone getting scared of their shit being on the internet? It's like now kind of not as true anymore, but to some extent it's still a thing of like you might never remove something you say, and also the same as in real life, right? You can't take back what you've said, the words you've said, if you go to that point. It's the same thing with our lives in the reincarnation process. It's not to find loopholes around it. It's not necessarily to make it the bee's knees of existence in reality. It's not necessarily to do anything except for give us more awareness and understanding of like what's the deeper purpose and meaning being down here and give us some clues or hints on what it's going to be like after we go there, and then eventually come back for either learning, growth, because we're still developing, or because we love this place and we want to see it better, or because we are, ascended masters and we are not just doing our job, but also finding a place and part in it within our lives, within creation, within the all. Um, it would just give more responsibility, accountability, and depth that there's no excuse for just being unconsciously ignorant, doing your thing, and never thinking twice and saying that that's fine because there's only the cold black death after this world is gone or whatever, right? And it's like I guess to some people sometimes that makes me question and ask like what if it's not like that? What if you're wrong? You're digging your heels into the issue that you'll probably need to go through all the time, every single time, every incarnation. Some of these things can really stick to you, but also, is it worth having anything as an excuse to be less attentive to ourselves or the people we love around us or this planet? Is there any ideology or belief that is worth saying nothing matters and I might as well give up and not give a shit? Do we really even need to, I guess, argue or discuss like that incarnation principle? Eh, to some it's like an answer to other people's it's a deep life question, and in between of all of it, it's just part of the universe, the cosmos, our life patterns, our soul patterns, life, death, and rebirth, right? And really brings back the point home that this is just temporary. All of this is temporary. We are going to go to somewhere else after this. We've done it many times before. Some people are in different places compared to others. That shouldn't mean anything, but it is damn cool. It is very, very, very cool. Yeah, I think that's everything. Yeah, 41, 41 on my clock, so I think I'm done. I'll take that as a sign. Um, Thank you so much for watching another episode of the Occult Saga. Let me know what you think or believe about reincarnation if you want to share that. You don't have to. Yet again, I am not inviting arguments or discourse in the comments section. Please be respectful to anyone and everyone, depending on, like where they're coming from and their beliefs. Just ignore the other people. But I want there to be connection and communication, not necessarily shoving your opinion down people's throats, right? Conversation can get heated, but really we don't need to get anything about it. As you know, I am sharing my experiences, understanding, and what I have learned and researched. And yeah, you can just take it for that too. It doesn't have to be more than that. I hope this helps you. I hope this was interesting for you. Maybe it has given you some answers. Maybe it just connected some stuff together. I feel like this was just the beginning for the whole topic of reincarnation. I don't freaking know what else I'm supposed to, not even supposed to say, but what else I have, I guess, on the topic, because it is a bit, it's gotten more complicated since I've decided to do this podcast, but also do this episode. Um, it just feels like the concept itself has expanded or become more intriguing and more detailed, but I myself haven't got there yet. Like I haven't gotten the feelings or comprehension about it. So I wonder what else am I gonna find out about it with time too. This is just where I currently am at and what I currently know. And there's so many layers and levels to this stuff. If I know that if you guys ask questions or have like curious points, that'll make it easier for me to pinpoint an answer instead of like trying to take from this huge vague cloud of personal understanding and philosophy, right? So yeah, I hope you have a good time. Appreciate your energy. Like, subscribe for, more of this. So, I keep coming back. 'Cause apparently people will want to keep watching this. And if you want to see more of me, you can go into the link tree down below and check out my Twitch, my Instagram, my gaming YouTube, Etsy, whatever. And I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay blessed.